Hey crew, it's Pitt and I am back with some more ancient lore. Today we are diving back into Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the topics that are brought to light as we proceed. But before we begin, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in the terminology, there are several playlists linked in the corner up above, in the box down below, along with the original source material, so that you can get a better understanding of what I mean. We're going to dive in now and begin to talk about Book 2, On the River Gran, among the Quadi, who are Bosnia, Slovenia area, northern Carpathian Mountains. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural, and to feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are obstructions. And I don't agree with that right off the top. You will absolutely deal with people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They can't tell good from evil. I agree with all of that. I agree that I have a definition of good and evil. I agree that I have a moral code by which I live by. But it does not include not getting angry. It does not include suppressing any emotions, because that is toxic and it will lead you to being a very unhappy person who is tending towards sullenness. You are meant to feel anger. You are meant to feel jealousy and pride and arrogance and all of the different emotions that we have. You're meant to feel them. You're not meant to let them rule you. There are times for every one of those things to flourish in you. However, there is a time to be righteously angry, and there is a time to turn your back. It is not always to turn your back. People can hurt you. They can't hurt you with words unless you allow that to happen, but they can hurt you with other things. And therefore, you should be able, and you are able, to defend yourself. And sometimes that includes rightful anger. You are meant to feel any single emotion that you have. If you are angry, you are meant to feel that. It is letting you know you're not supposed to be in this situation. There is something dangerous in this situation. There is something that I violently disagree with in this situation, and I am not supposed to be involved. But sometimes that anger is righteous. It is meant to be taken care of. You're meant to feel sadness. That doesn't mean that you break down every time you feel sad. But you are meant to cry. You are meant to worry about things, but not to the point of excessiveness. If something is sad and you are out and about and you don't feel like dealing with it right now, yes, okay, that is fine. Don't cry. But when you get home, let that shit out of your soul. If you do not, it will absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, poison you. Don't be poisoned by your own poison. Get it out of you. And so we go through these and we talk about the things that I agree with and I do not agree with. If you don't like them, let me know down below. Whatever this is that I am, it is flesh and a little spirit and an intelligence. And look at that. That is the Trinity. The flesh, the intelligence or the soul, and the spirit, the becoming. Throw away your books. Stop letting yourself be distracted. That is not allowed. Instead, as if you were dying right now, despise your flesh. A mess of blood, pieces of bone, a woven tangle of nerves, veins, and arteries. Consider what the spirit is. Air, and never the same air, but vomited out and gulped in again every instant. Finally, the intelligence. Think of it this way. You are an old man. Stop allowing your mind to be a slave, to be jerked about by selfish impulses, to kick against fate and the present, and to mistrust the future. Don't hate your flesh. If you hate your flesh, then you're living for the afterlife, and that is fucking dumb. Don't do it. You're meant to live right here. There's a reason why you are incarnated in this body with your soul and in the spirit, the air that allows you to become. Again, you are meant to embrace this life. Does that mean that everything is going to be happy, peaches and roses? Absolutely not. Some of it sucks. You're meant to embrace the suck just as much as you are meant to embrace the happy parts. You are meant to live this life, not to exclude yourself from it, not to remove yourself from it, not to exclude it from you. You are meant to embrace your life. Live it to the fullest. Do not despise your flesh. Do not succumb to the fleshly passions, but don't despise your flesh. This is a wonderful masterpiece that you are allowed to pilot around in 5D space. That is amazing. Do it. All right, next up. What is divine is full of providence. Even chance is not divorced from nature, from the inweaving and enfolding of things governed by providence. Everything proceeds from it, and then there is necessity and the needs of the whole world, of which you are a part. Whatever the nature of the whole does, and whatever serves to maintain it, is good for every part of nature. The world is maintained by change, in the elements and in the things they compose. That should be enough for you. Treat it as an axiom. Discard your thirst for books so that you won't die in bitterness, but in cheerfulness and truth, grateful to the gods from the bottom of your heart. And again, this is a second reference to get rid of books, and I absolutely do not agree with that. That you can convey wisdom face to face, but for the most part, no. Now, I read a lot of fantasy books. I love fantasy books. They are well into the realm of fantasy, as fact. But that is not the only books I read. These books I read, right? We're reading books here together. You can find wisdom in every single piece of literature ever written. Even the Communist Manifesto has a little bit of wisdom hidden inside of it. Not a lot. There's not a lot in there. I read it for you. But they do have a little bit of wisdom in there. It is not great, but there are kernels in everything. If you read a book of fiction, there is something you can find from that. That is true. Books are amazing things. The fact that people can read is a wonderful gift, that we can convey knowledge across time in accurate measure is an amazing thing. And to get rid of that is foolish. Should you spend all your time pursuing books? No. Even if you're an author and you're writing books, you shouldn't spend all of your time on that, or you won't have anything to write about. If you do not live the experience and embrace this life, then you have nothing to relate to anyone else. You should not spend all of your time gathering experiences from other people, but you definitely should be devoting part of your time to learning more things. And one of the best ways to do that is to read. There is so much out there to learn that you do not know yet. Go out and find it. Embrace it. Learn something. Change your life. Do not get sullen. 4. Remember how long you've been putting this off. How many extensions the gods gave you and you didn't use them. At some point, you have to recognize what world it is that you belong to, what power rules it, and from what source you spring, that there is a limit to the time assigned you, and if you don't use it to free yourself, it will be gone and it will never return. Seize control of your life once again, right? That's the message here, and it's not even the same one he just gave you. Time is fleeting. You have a but short trip around. You only get one round this time, and there may be another time, but you only got one shot this time. Make the absolute most out of it that you can. You cannot do that being slovenly. You cannot do that being lazy. You cannot do that being disdainful. You cannot do that being super critical. There are times for all of those things, but again, it is not to consume you. You have a short amount of time. I know it seems long, 100 years possible, right? That's a long time. No, it's not. This country is older than that. This civilization, this experiment is older than that. And that's wild, but it's not that old. Even the history of the United States are 250 years almost, right here with this experiment in freedom. Even it is relatively young. When he wrote this was 1,200 years ago. That's what we figured out 1,200, 1,300 years ago. That's a long time, boss. That's a long time. And so take your piece of this time and make the absolute most out of it. Embrace it. Read some books. Live your life to the fullest of it. And don't keep putting it off. You have extensions. I've had extensions, right? I am here purely through the divine intervention of God. And so, yeah. 5. Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what is in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, and with justice, and on freeing yourself from other distractions. Yes, you can, if you do everything as if it were the last thing you were doing in your life. And stop being aimless. Stop letting your emotions override what your mind tells you. Stop being hypocritical, self-centered, and irritable. You see how few things you can have to do to live a satisfying life and reverent life? If you can manage this, that's all even the gods can ask of you. The path of self-mastery is the path to happiness. That is an absolute truth. 6. Yes, keep on degrading yourself, soul, but soon your chance at dignity will be gone. Everyone gets one life, and yours is almost used up. And instead of treating yourself with respect, you have entrusted your own happiness to the souls of others. Find the happiness in your life. Embrace your life. Do the thing which you need to do. 7. Do external things distract you? Then make time for yourself to learn something worthwhile. Stop letting yourself be pulled in all directions. Make sure you guard against the other kind of confusion. People who labor all their lives but have no purpose to direct every thought and impulse toward are wasting their time, even when hard at work. Finding your life's purpose can indeed lead to great happiness in your life, right? That is one of the great struggles of life. It is one that I attempt to help people with here. Right? I have a whole bunch of toolboxes. Infinite Integrations has it, MBTI Parts have it, MBTI Reworked has it. There's a lot of different toolboxes that I have put tools into for you to help you find your work. Now, the MBTI stuff, that's probably going to be your best bet. It is not the same as the MBTI that we've had for the last 50 years. It is different. I have changed definitions. I have changed meanings. I have changed the order of some things, but it works better. And it has allowed me to find my purpose in life. It has allowed several other people who watch this channel to find their purpose in life. What is it that you're good at? What is it that you want to do? What is it that would make you happy? Do you want to find that? What is it that makes you choose the wrong things? Why do I keep making the same mistakes? Why can I not grab this piece of information? Do you want to know? I have some answers for you. They may not be the answers, but they are definitely an answer. And it will definitely help you get a grip on this. Learn how to write down what you would like to do and how to vocalize every single day the thing that you want to do, to spend time learning how to do the thing that you want to do, to invest yourself in this world and in this life and work hard. Like, life is not meant to be all work. You need to take leisure time. You need to do recreational activities. But you are meant to work, and you are meant to work hard. So do that. Embrace just as much challenge as you possibly can, and you will find a happier life if you can get past the bitching about it. 8. ignoring what goes on in other people's souls. No one ever came to grief that way. But if you won't keep track of what your own soul's doing, how can you not be unhappy? Yeah, be mindful in what you are doing. 9. Don't ever forget these things. The nature of the world. My nature. How I relate to the world. What proportion of it I make up. That you are a part of nature and no one can prevent you from speaking and acting in harmony with it always. Yeah, like the nature of the world is not good, right? It is evil. What is my nature? My nature is what I choose to make it. How do I relate to the world? As a beacon of light. What proportion of it do I make up? A very thin sliver. You are a part of nature, and no one can prevent you from speaking and acting in harmony with it, nature, always. You can decide that, no, I'm not going to say this. It might hurt somebody's feelings. You can say, I'm not going to express myself because somebody else may not like it. But if you do that, then you are selling yourself short. You should be living an authentic life. Does that mean that you are always correct? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But you should be striving for the thing that you want to do instead of hiding from the thing that other people don't want you to do. Live according to who you are. You will be happier for it. I say all of the time. I have a tendency to step on toes when I relay information, but I do not apologize for it. That is what this is. This is my nature. My nature is to tell truth, and I don't care who doesn't like it anymore. 10. In comparing sins, the way people do, Theophrastus says that the ones committed out of desire are worse than the ones committed out of anger, which is good philosophy. The angry man seems to turn his back on reason out of a kind of pain and inner convulsion. But the man motivated by desire, who is mastered by pleasure, seems somehow more self-indulgent, less manly in his sins. Theophrastus is right and philosophically sound to say that the sin committed out of pleasure deserves a harsher rebuke than the one committed out of pain. The angry man is more like a victim of wrongdoing, provoked by pain to anger. The other man rushes into wrongdoing on his own, moved to action by desire. And I do not disagree with that. 11. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. If the gods exist, then to abandon human beings is not frightening. The gods would never subject you to harm. And if they don't exist or don't care what happens to us, what would be the point of living in a world without gods or providence? But they do exist, and they do care what happens to us, and everything a person needs to avoid real harm they have placed within him. If there were anything harmful on the other side of death, they would have made sure that the ability to avoid it was within you. If it doesn't harm your character, how can it harm your life? Nature would not have overlooked such dangers through failing to recognize them, or because it saw them but was powerless to prevent or correct them. Nor would it ever, through inability or incompetence, make such a mistake as to let good and bad things happen indiscriminately to good and bad alike. But death and life, success and failure, pain and pleasure, wealth and poverty, all these happen to good and bad alike, and they are neither noble nor shameful, and hence neither good nor bad. Somewhat, right? Like, I do believe in God. I do not believe in God's plural. I do believe that there is a God. God is me, God is you. He is the space between me and you and the space between the space between me and you. He is everything you can see and everything that you cannot. I do believe that there is a divine plan, but I do believe that we have a determining factor within that plan. I do not believe that this is a prison planet, but I believe it is a voluntary exercise in self-control and growth. It is a lesson that we are here in school more than anything else. And so that's why I talk about embracing your life. That's why I talk about doing the things that you want to do And you do have things within you to help you avoid dangers. You have a early warning system. You may not even know about it, but some people call it intuition. I get into the physical mechanics of it, right? I believe that the chakras, the 7 points inside of you and the one outside of you that you have access to, act as early warning devices. If you walk into a room and there is somebody there with hostilities toward you, you feel it. You feel it in the interaction between your gut and your sacral, which is about living and surviving and creating and nurturing your soul. But you feel that in there. If you walk into a room and there's somebody attractive, you feel that too. You feel it a little bit higher. It's the interaction between your solar plexus chakra and your heart chakra. Those are letting you know things. That is where intuition springs from, that feeling in your gut. Sometimes it's in your throat. Sometimes it's in your head. Sometimes it's in your balls. Sometimes it's wherever it needs to be. But it is always telling you something. You should learn to pay attention to those things. It is an early warning system. It is helping you to avoid danger. Now, whether or not there is danger on the other side, which I do not believe there is, this, I do not believe, is a logical conclusion, right? Well, if it was dangerous, we would be able to avoid it. Not necessarily. I don't believe that it is at all. I do not hold with the conventional beliefs of the control systems. I don't believe there's a hell waiting for you to roast because you smoked a cigarette when you were 14. I don't believe those things. But I am willing and more than willing to say that I could be wrong. There could be something dangerous. And the fact that I don't have a way to avoid that is not necessarily a indicator that it does not exist. I just do not believe it does. I did that backwards. 12. The speed with which all of them vanish, the objects in the world and the memory of them in time. And the real nature of things our senses experience, especially those that entice us with pleasure or frighten us with pain, and are loudly trumpeted by pride. To understand those things, how stupid, contemptible, grimy, decaying, and dead they are, that's what our intellectual powers are for. I agree with that. And to understand what those people really amount to, whose opinions and voices constitute fame. A pile of horseshit. And what dying is, and that if you look at it in the abstract and break down your imaginary ideas of it by logical analysis, you realize that it's nothing but a process of nature which only children can be afraid of. And not only a process of nature, but a necessary one. And how man grasps God, with what part of himself he does so, and how that part is conditioned when he does. I don't disagree with this. And I don't think it needs more of an explanation, right? I don't know how long this is going to take, so I'm not trying to explain things that don't seem to need it. 13. Nothing is more pathetic than people who run around in circles, delving into the things that lie beneath, and conducting investigations into the souls of people around them, never realizing that all you have to do is to be attentive to the power inside of you and worship it sincerely. To worship is to keep it from being muddied with turmoil and becoming aimless and dissatisfied with nature, divine and human. What is divine deserves our respect because it is good. What is human deserves our affection because it is like us. And our pity, too, sometimes, for its inability to tell good from bad, as terrible a blindness as the kind that can't tell white from black. I delve into the things that lie beneath, right? All the time. That is what I'm doing. I'm trying to sort those things out here on this channel pretty much every single video. So I guess I'm pathetic. Do I run in circles with it? I don't necessarily think so. I do believe that I am moving in spiral, right? I'm running up the spiral of choice. That is what I believe. And I don't necessarily concern myself with other people's souls other than the point of what we do here, where I am telling you what my path is, and you are welcome to walk alongside me if you so choose. I am not chasing after people. I am not trying to convince them, right? That's one of the things I did, right? I had to make a choice on that because what I did was unconventional. My unconventional Bible study, I did a lot in that. And in my estimation, I have logically and through their own records broken both of the religions based upon that book. They are fundamentally flawed in a way that we're not even going to dive into here. And so I do things a little bit differently. But I had to make the choice not to go to the people who believe that, right? I could very well and very easily have blown up overnight by attacking some of these prosperity teachers, by going to them and making the videos like I do reactions and talking about the things they talk about and how they are wrong in almost everything they say. But if I was going to do that, then I would have to go to some of these other preachers too, because I hold the fundamental belief difference that every single blood sacrifice is wrong. And so instead of going to attack people, which would have blown my channel up a lot faster, right? If it was about the success of the channel, I could have taken the negative route and I could be attacking those people and being concerned about their souls, chasing in circles those things, but I'm not. We're here to divine the truth and to put it out there. And if people come to attack me, I will defend myself, but I am not going to attack people. And that was a choice that I had to make. I am not aimless and dissatisfied. I have a purpose and an intention. We have a whole goal on this channel to do some pretty amazing things. And part of the reason why is because I read books, because I chase after those things that he doesn't like, because I embrace the passions that drive me. And I don't let them rule me, but when I get angry, my anger comes out. Not in a violent way most of the time, but I let it out. When I get sad, I let it out. When I get happy, I let it out. I do not hold on to these things, and I do believe that that is what helps me to be a lot happier than most people. Even I have my bad days, though, so don't get that twisted at all. 14. Even if you're going to live 3,000 more years or 10 times that, remember, you cannot lose another life than the one you're living now, or live another one than the one you're losing. The longest amounts to the same as the shortest. The present is the same for everyone. Its loss is the same for everyone. And it should be clear that a brief instant is all that is lost. For you can't lose either the past or the future. How could you lose what you don't have? That is a very fatalistic way of looking at it, but not necessarily untrue. Remember two things. One, that everything that has always been the same and keeps recurring, and it makes no difference whether you see the same thing recur in 100 years or 200, or in an infinite period. Infinite would imply that it doesn't ever happen again. That the longest lived and those who will die soonest lose the same thing. The present is all that they can give up, since that is all you have, and what you do not have, you cannot lose. That is untrue, too, because I attempted to give away my life. I tried to start a shotgun. That's how I put it, so YouTube gets where it needs to be. I was divinely intervened. That's how I look at it. I pulled the trigger 3 times. I earnestly gave a shot, right? So I could have given it away. I could have lost that which would have been. But I didn't. So I guess that's in part true. But many people do. Many people have more of a future than they keep. And so because they are despondent and they don't have a plan and they are anxious about the future or depressed about the past, they give up their life. It's a horrible choice. But like he said before, you don't have to be here. You should. I never advocate for someone to self-delete. I have been down that road. It's no fun. It's really not. And so I do not recommend it to anyone. I recommend fully embracing this life instead. And part of that is you cannot be fatalistic about it, right? There is the human part of your life is the best part of it. It is the part that chooses what to do. Now, you can choose to be miserable. People do it every damn day. They're like, oh, look, this thing made me sad 6 months ago. Let me go talk about it. Or, Here's this thing that is really terrible. Let me go focus on it. They do that all the time, but you don't have to. 15. Everything is just an impression. Monimus the cynic. And the response is obvious enough, but the point is a useful one if you wish to take it for what it's worth. The human soul degrades itself. Number 16. 1. Above all, when it does its best to become an abscess, the kind of detached growth on the world, to be disgruntled at anything that happens is a kind of secession from nature, which comprises the nature of all things. That is true. When it turns its back on another person, or sets out to do it harm, as the souls of the angry do, also true. When it is overpowered by pleasure or pain, when it puts on a mask and does or says something artificial or false, and when it allows its action and impulse to be without a purpose, to be random and disconnected, even the smallest things ought to be directed towards a goal. But the goal of a rational being is to follow the rule and law of the most ancient of communities and states. Not necessarily always, because once upon a time slavery was a thing, and I personally find it abhorrent and I find it disgusting that it is still a thing. There are still places you can go today where you can buy a human being in the open market, not a hidden, like here it's hidden in these states, but go to Nigeria or Albania or in pretty much, well, several of the Islamic communities. They literally sell people on blocks, in chains, in open air markets out there. That is a real thing. It happens. That is still a thing. Most people do not even realize that. I do not agree that we should be following that rule and law. There is a law that says that you can own a human being. I do not believe that. And so, not always. Sometimes, most of the time even, you should be following laws. I am a great one for laws and their enforcement. But you need to review them every once in a while. Make sure they are still correct. We have a law here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is just about 15 miles up the road from me, that on Sundays you can't spit on the sidewalk. Every other day it is perfectly fine, but on Sundays you can't do it. Now that law, as far as I know, has not been enforced in a couple hundred of years, or 150. But we still have it. It is still on the books. It is still illegal to spit on the sidewalk in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on a Sunday. It might be time to revisit some laws. I'm not saying that it's a good thing to spit, but sometimes it is a necessary thing. Sometimes you have something in your mouth you need to get out. Sometimes. And so we need to review our laws. We need to make sure that the laws are correct. And just because they are old does not mean that you need to follow them. That is a fallacy. I said transfer. Human life. Duration. Momentary. Nature. Changeable. Perception. Dim. Condition of the body. Decaying. Soul. Spinning around. Fortune, unpredictable. Lasting fame, uncertain. Sum up, the body and its parts are a river, the soul a dream and mist. Life is warfare and a journey far from home. Lasting reputation is oblivion. Then what can guide us? Only philosophy, which means making sure that the power within stays safe and free from assault, superior to pleasure and pain, doing nothing randomly or dishonestly and with imposture, not dependent on anyone else's doing something or not doing it, and making sure that it accepts what happens and what is dealt as coming from the same place as it came from. And above all, that it accepts death in a cheerful spirit, as nothing but the dissolution of the elements from which each living thing is composed. If it doesn't hurt the individual elements to change continually into one another, why are people afraid of all of them changing and separating? It's a natural thing and natural, and nothing natural is evil. And so we have reached the end of Book 2, and that's where we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Philosophy, as they define it, is more like trying to find the mind of God than anything else, right? Not necessarily the will of God, but the mind of God, like the reason for creation. Why are we here? It is in large part what I do on this channel every single day. Making sure that the power within stays safe and free from assault, superior to pleasure and pain, doing nothing randomly or dishonestly, and with imposture. All true, right? You have power. You don't have to take that in the woo-woo way that I absolutely mean that. But you do have power. You have the power to stand firm in your will. You have the power to truly follow your nature, and that is not a violent one, despite what you may think. You are meant to learn, to grow, to become more. That, I believe wholeheartedly, is our purpose here. I believe that we all make contracts with each other to learn things. You made a contract with me to learn from me today. I made a contract from you to learn from you at some unspecified point in time. It might be in a comment. It might be we meet face to face one day. Somehow, in some way, like it may just be that you hit the subscribe button and you helped the channel a little bit, and I learned from that I had at least one more supporter in what I am doing. Right? We are here to teach each other. I believe that is on purpose, because the infinite, being infinite, cannot come within the finite. Because the immortal cannot become mortal, it cannot understand the mortal in a way that we understand mortality. The immortal does not understand loss, because to the immortal, when we leave here, we go home. And so there was no loss. But to us, it is devastating when we lose a spouse or a parent or a child. That's a devastating thing, and we feel grief to the bones. And that's what it's about. Sometimes the experience is wonderful. Sometimes you find the love of your life and you live in bliss for 40 or 50 years. That can happen. And sometimes you lose a child, and that is absolutely heartbreaking and sorrowful. That can happen. And both of them are perfectly within the intention of why you are here. You are meant to feel happiness. You are meant to feel grief. Through that, the divine can experience your grief. It can understand what it is to lose. Because when we return and our memories go with us, it can feel that in a way that it can't feel it for itself. Because when we leave, there is no separation. We're just going to a different place. That is my firm belief. We are here to make the correct choices. And the correct choices are not always clearly defined. Sometimes the correct choice is violence. If somebody is a bully and they are unrelenting, there is only one way to handle that situation. If someone is a murderer and they are unrepentant, there is only one way to handle that situation, and it is absolutely violence. Violence should be the last recourse, and it should never be an aggressive act. And there's a whole series and chain of things that go into it. But you are meant to make choices, and those choices either lead you up the spiral of choice or it leads you down the spiral of choice. And if you are not intentionally choosing to walk up the path of resistance, the harder path, the narrow gate, the smaller path, the rocky way, if you are not intentionally choosing that and embracing that and becoming that, then you are unintentionally choosing the wrong thing. You are going down the spiral, even if you do not understand it. And standing still is as good as going down the spiral. If you are merely maintaining your existence, then why are you here? There is so much out there to experience. There are sights that you have never seen. There are things that you have never done and that you really want to, and you're scared to, so you sit around and you watch Netflix, or you sit around and you play cards and drink, or you sit around a bonfire and just bullshit and never actually go out and do things. Not that sitting around a bonfire is a bad thing. Not that playing cards is a bad thing. Those are experiences. But it can't be the only ones, right? You need new experiences in order to live a fulfilling life. Does not mean that you're always going to get the fulfilling experience that you want in this life. But you should be trying, you should be striving, you should be earnestly grabbing as much as you possibly can, because you've got one shot here. You have one life, and I'm 47 years into it. I am well past halfway through, at a minimum, right? If it could be tomorrow, it could be today, But in all probability, the way that I'm taking my care of myself these days, I'll probably live to 80, maybe 90. I'm probably about halfway. And so I still have 40 years. I could sit here and I could stew and I could ruminate on things, or I could find new experiences. And I am doing that here, right? What we do here is me finding new knowledge. That's an experience. Me relaying new knowledge. That's an experience. Something I've never done before. This is a brand new experience for me. There are other brand new experiences all the time. Go out and find them. Enjoy your life. Embrace your life. There is wisdom to be found in these meditations, but it is not the only wisdom. And that's where we're going to wrap it up. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment letting me know if you agree or disagree. As long as it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. And if you really like what I'm doing, hit me with that super thanks, because I am not a communist. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt State. Peace.